I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. We have so much to get into, guys. Crazy times are happening right now. We do have a special guest that is joining us, so I don't want to keep them waiting. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight. Again, so tonight's theme is all hell breaks loose because I really don't know how else to put it. These are the times that we are in. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not heard by now, the supreme leader of Iran has been killed. He is now being called a martyr. We're getting into some updates that is happening since the U.S. and Iran, the U.S. and Israel did strike Iran yesterday. Colonel Wilkerson is going to be here to join us to discuss that. So many things have happened, including, if you can tell by the thumbnail, U.S. troops have already been killed, which is what we were warning people about. We're also going to discuss, we have another Epstein reveal that involves Donald Trump and, of course, Howard Lutnick, new information that has been brought forward. I'm going to get into that. I'm also going to discuss, apparently Hakeem Jeffries thinks that he has been kind of sneaky, and something he's been doing behind the scenes with funding has now been brought to the forefront. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't seen it, a lot of people are talking about something apparently has happened to actor Jim Carrey. It does not look like the same person. I don't know if they gave him happy pills or something, but something has happened to him. We're going to get into that. And last but not least, this is an interesting story that someone sent me, and I really want to get your opinion about it. This North Carolina woman that has been missing for years has been found. And there's a twist to this story. Apparently, she wasn't actually missing. Yeah, I want to get your opinion about that. Those are the stories, ladies and gents. Start us off right by smashing the like. And I want to go ahead and bring in our special guest. Many of you have seen him here before. His name is Colonel Larry Wilkerson. He is a retired colonel. He is also the former chief of staff to Colin Powell. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Welcome back, Larry.
Good to be with you, Sabby, even if it is a sad moment or two.
We are living in some crazy, dangerous times. It's funny, when I reached out to you, for those who don't know, when I invited Larry to come back on the show, that was actually right before Israel and Iran, Israel and the U.S. struck Iran. So I think it was Friday when I sent you the request, and then they struck. Yeah, so I had a feeling this was coming. I want to start off with some of the updates that have taken place. So for those who are not aware, Israel did announce that they killed Ali Khamenei. Iran has confirmed that. And I think you need to hear what was said on Press TV. They are already saying that there will be revenge. Listen to this.
The devils of the world will celebrate. And everybody, they have managed to brainwash. But this is not over. Trump is going to pay a price paid by no American president at all time, paid by no Zionist of all time, paid by no criminal of all time. Trump is going to see, because revenge is coming, and revenge is coming soon, and revenge is coming after Trump, after everybody who facilitated this assassination. He will pay the ultimate price. And it's not only by the millions of Iranians, it's not only by the millions in resistance countries, it's also by those who have newly joined the resistance.
Yeah, so this was the sound that was going across the airwaves yesterday. And I also wanted to point this out to people as well. Right now, a lot of corporate media outlets are telling you that everyone's celebrating in Iran after Khamenei has been killed. They're not showing you this side of it. Iranians come out to mourn the death of Khamenei. Looks like we are viewed as liberators. Meanwhile, Ynet reports that President Trump reached out to Iran through Italy to request a ceasefire, and it was rejected. So just a quick look here. These are all the people that came out to mourn his death. So I just wanted you guys to see how many people came out there to mourn his death. Colonel Wilkerson, what are your thoughts on the assassination of Khamenei? Again, and people are already referring to him as a martyr.
Let me just say that your opening there with that crowd mourning the death of the Ayatollah is a perfect example of one of the things that's wrong with this situation. We have been lied to. We have been propagandized. We have been told multiple falsehoods about Iran, to include the fact that they're a threat to us. They have nothing that threatens us, absolutely nothing. That they're the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. Look at the State Department's own reports on terrorism in the world. For the past 30 years, Iran is down at the bottom of the list. You know who's at the top of the list? Really should be at the top of the list? Israel. Israel is the greatest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. All you have to do is look at Gaza to see it happening. All you have to do is Lebanon to see it happening. All you have to do is look at Syria to see it happening. All you have to do is look at the West Bank and Jerusalem to see it happening. So that's the first thing, is that we have been lied to repeatedly. And let me get your listeners to think about something. In 1953, we overthrew the first democratically elected leader of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh, in a CIA MI6 British intelligence sponsored operation. We installed the Shah. For 26 years, the Shah was a tyrant. Towards the end of that time, he was worse than a tyrant, and they overthrew him and installed the first Ayatollah, Khomeini. That was the revolution. Ever since that time, we have been trying murderously to beat back these people who essentially beat us. And what does that mean? When I say that, what's that mean in history? It means that right after that happened, right after the Shah was kicked out, we backed Iraq and Saddam Hussein in an attack on Iran that lasted 8 years, and for the region was the bloodiest war in 1,000 years. It was as bad as World War I in the region. This war lasted 8 years. At the end of that 8 years, we threw our full weight behind Saddam Hussein, and the Iranians had to concede. Otherwise, they were going to go to Baghdad, and we didn't want that. What happened at the end of that war? Vincennes, one of our ultra-modern cruisers in the Persian Gulf, shot down an Iranian Airbus civilian flight, killing 290 or so Iranian civilians. The Ayatollah even said, this is more than I can handle. I can handle Iraq, but I can't handle the United States backing him. And he accepted the UN peace agreement for stopping that war. Ever since then, this is a lurid history, Sabby, absolutely lurid. And our press doesn't tell us anything about it. Ever since then, we've been trying to overthrow the leadership in Iran. The leadership in Iran presents no threat to the United States of America. This nonsense about them building ballistic missiles and putting warheads on it with nuclear weapons. They don't even have a nuclear weapon. And they've disavowed nuclear weapons. So this is all cocked up. You got to believe that the American people are finally waking up. I saw the polls a few minutes ago, right before I came on. 2 polls, 29% in one and 25% in the other support this war. I don't see that going anywhere but further down, because this is a tragedy. This is an absolute tragedy. Now we have Israel, the real architect of this entire campaign. We have Israel having suffered in one strike, as I understand it. They had 9 killed, 70 wounded, 6 missing, and it was a bomb shelter in central Israel that was struck by an Iranian missile. So we're going to get casualty after casualty in this. This isn't going to be any kind of cakewalk for anybody. There are going to be deaths on all sides in this. And if it weren't for the fact that the United States is there in such force, Israel would go down. There's no question in my mind. Iran would destroy Israel. But because we are there in such force, we can at least put a halt to the more horrendous attempts that they will make on Israel. But if it weren't that case, if we weren't there to protect them, they would probably go down. They would go down. And what does that mean? In Bibi's terms, 2 nights ago, Bibi gave a speech in Hebrew. You always want to listen to his speeches in Hebrew, because when he speaks in English, he's speaking to you and me. But when he speaks in Hebrew, he's speaking to his own people in his cabinet. And at the end of that speech, he said, if this doesn't succeed, you are going to suffer the most horrendous attack imaginable to man. Those were his words in Hebrew. And I'm telling you, you know what he means. He means if it gets so bad that Israel truly is existentially threatened, he's going to use a nuclear weapon or 2. He's got 200 plus.
This is insane.
This is the most dangerous man in the world, Sabby. The most dangerous and the most. He's got 80% of the Israeli Jews behind him. Now, there's 14 million people in Israel, or was 14 million. A lot of them have left, but half of them are Palestinian, Arabs, Christians, and so forth. The 7 million Jews that are in Israel, I think it's probably like about 6 now, because about 1 million have left, scared to death to stay. They support him. 80% of them in polls support him in what he's doing. So it's not like they got a tyrant in charge of them. They're all tyrants, or at least a good percentage of them. At least 80% of them are, who keep voting for it in the polls and keep voting for him. And that's another thing. One reason he's doing all this right now is because he's going to stand election. And he doesn't want to leave office, because if he leaves office, he's going to jail.
Yeah. I have to show people how this is going to impact the entire world, right? So the Strait of Hormuz, this is a big one for those who have not been paying attention just recently. This is from Professor Morandi, which I chatted with to make sure he's okay. Earlier today in the Gulf of Oman, All ships and tankers in the Gulf of Oman and the Persian Gulf may soon face the same fate. Netanyahu and his sidekick Trump are on the verge of crashing the global economy. This is one of the oil tankers that was hit. And then for a number of people who are not familiar with the Strait of Hormuz, I do want people to see this. From the Financial Times, brokers have told the Financial Times that the war risk insurers have submitted cancellation notices for policies covering ships moving through the Strait of Hormuz, a key oil checkpoint with prices set to rise as much as 50% in the coming days. So for the people, and I think this what drives me crazy, Colonel Wilkerson, when people say, I don't care about what's going on over there. Yeah. I just care about what's happening in the U.S. I bet you they'll care when these gas prices go up.
They are going to care. They cared the last time this happened. And I was in Pacific Command the last time this happened, and Iran was not nearly as capable as they are today of closing that strait and of impacting the ships in that strait and in that Persian Gulf. Not only that, Al-Ansar in Yemen, the Houthis, are now going to close the Red Sea again. And we've already shown, P.D. Hegseth showed that we can't open that sea, because before we put billions of dollars and lots of ships trying to do that, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't beat the Houthis. They cost us billions of dollars. They shot down our drones. They caused the carrier to turn too fast in the Red Sea and pushed a $1 million airplane off into the Red Sea. We quit and left the Red Sea because we couldn't stop them. So that's an even more important, the Bab el-Mandeb, the strait at the southern end of the Red Sea, is even more important than the Strait of Hormuz. So you've got two straits that are critical to world commerce that are going to be threatened, if not closed temporarily in this war. This is a disaster. And I was looking at what we did before when it happened. We reflagged Kuwaiti tankers with the U.S. Navy and escorted them through. Well, Iran is a lot more capable today, but even then they were able to put mines in the water. They hit Bridgerton, one big tanker. They hit a U.S. Navy ship and almost sunk it. There's no question right now that they could sink an entire a destroyer escort, maybe even an aircraft carrier. We're talking about huge casualties here. And we're talking about Trump. I don't think, I got to think Trump doesn't have a clue. He's got to not have a clue about what Iran's abilities are versus our force disposition in the region. And for that matter, what they are against Israel. I heard today, I hope it's true, that he's thinking and talking about giving them a breather and maybe going back to talks again. Well, if I were the Iranians, I wouldn't even accept that. I wouldn't any way accept that. That's what we were doing. Again, for the second time. We were in negotiations. We told the Iranians, Witkoff told the Iranians, we'll be back. We'll be back. We're coming back. And then we bombed them. Then we started this current war. This is unconscionable what we're doing. We're destroying our reputation in the world, utterly destroying it.
100%. And I want to show people something. This is a really good video. We're not going to play the whole thing, but just to give you a gist of it, I want you guys to see how this would impact so many other countries and how it gives the boomerang effect to us as well.
If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, what impact will it have on the entire world, and which country will be affected the most? First, let's understand what the Strait of Hormuz actually is. It is a small area of just 33 kilometers located between Iran, Oman, and the UAE. It is a narrow sea passage through which almost 20% of the world's oil supply flows, nearly 17 million barrels every day. This oil comes from 8 countries located in the Persian Gulf, including Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE for the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Qatar, 90% of their oil exports pass through this narrow route to reach the rest of the world. If Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, following countries will suffer the most damage. First is India, because it imports 85% of its oil, and 60% of that comes from Middle Eastern countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the UAE. Fuel prices in India would skyrocket, and as a result, everything related to oil and all industries would face severe disruption. Industries could shut down, there would be job losses, and the economy would be severely affected. The second most affected country would be China. China is the world's largest oil importer, bringing in 10 million barrels of oil every day. 40% of China's oil imports pass through this Strait of Hormuz. Although China has built oil pipelines with Russia and Central Asia, they don't even fulfill 20% of its energy needs. So, if the Strait of Hormuz is blocked, China's economy could suffer a massive blow. And if China's economy is shaken, its effects will be felt all over the world. The third most affected country would be Japan, as it imports 90% of its oil, and 75% of that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. The fourth most affected country would be Saudi Arabia. 80 to 90% of Saudi Arabia's oil goes to the rest of the world through Strait of Hormuz, while only 10% goes to Europe via its Red Sea coastline. So if this choke point is blocked, Saudi Arabia's economy will be heavily impacted. Imagine that a country suddenly loses 80 to 90% of its revenue. What would happen to it? Something similar could happen to Saudi Arabia.
So you guys get the gist of it. But this is the wild impact of all of this. And we depend on Saudi Arabia and all these other countries for oil as well. And I think Down with the Click made a good point here. Now I see why Trump needed Venezuela's oil so bad. So you see, this is what we were telling people, right?
I'm telling you, I think the ultimate reason has nothing to do with the nuclear program, has nothing to do with ballistic missiles, nothing to do with terrorism. I think what Trump really wants, what the people behind Trump really want, is Iranian oil. I think that's really what they want. And it's just like Venezuela. And that's what Trump is after. But can you put that picture back up there again for a second? Mm-hmm. If you look at the northern end of that sea, we have two Navy combatants in there. That water is so shallow and the turn radius so narrow that those ships could be sunk at any moment. They could be sunk with mines. They could be sunk by missiles. They could be sunk by any number of different methods that the Iranians have at their beck and call. And that's a couple hundred sailors dead in one fell swoop. Why we have those ships in there is beyond me. When I was working in Pacific Command back in the 80s, when the war was going on then between Iran and Iraq, there's no way we'd have dared to put a combatant in that narrow sea. And yet that's what we're doing now. I don't understand this action. I don't understand what the Navy's doing. I don't understand what they did in the Red Sea. I know they got run out of the Red Sea. So this is just a disaster waiting to happen. And all Iran is doing is waiting for the propitious moment to cause the disaster.
That's right. And speaking of disaster, a number of U.S. bases have been hit pretty heavily. There seemed to be a strike that also had an impact on Dubai's international airport.
Yes.
From what I understand, Dubai is very, very much westernized, right? I know a lot of people have traveled to Dubai for business. So just to give people an idea, another one.
Abu
Go
Dhabi,
ahead.
Doha. Yeah, Abu Dhabi, Doha. And here's something that I got some pushback on today from others, and I understood why they were saying it. They asked me, why is Iran hitting countries that don't really have a grudge with it, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like others? Why is it doing it? I said, don't you understand? Most of those countries, Bahrain, for example, did you see when Bahrain was hit? The people were in the streets cheering. Most of those countries have leaders that are sitting on top of populations that have sympathy with the Palestinians and very little sympathy with their governments. So Iran has got a strategy here of hitting those facilities because their people don't care. They'll cheer when Iran hits their facilities and getting the people to rise up and overthrow their tyrants. Where have we heard that before? That's always our way of doing things, supposedly, but we're the exact opposite of that. We support all those people. We support them all because they sell us their oil. But Iran is using a reverse strategy, if you will, to attack assets there that they know the bulk of the people will cheer being attacked. And if they get the people to rise up, we're going to have a holy mess. Think of the so-called spring when everybody was trying to overthrow these tyrants in the region. In Egypt, they overthrew Mubarak. They almost overthrew a couple of others leaders in the region too. Think about that, and think about it wholesalely, simply because Iran is the only one defending the people's interests. And it's not just Shia. It's a smaller population in Saudi Arabia of Shia. I think it's about 20%. It's Sunni too, because they're just as oppressed as the Shia in Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, this is a pretty good indirect strategy, really, to be hitting these people and knowing that their people, the bulk of their people, will be for it.
Yeah, and to be fair, Iran said if the U.S. and Israel attacked them, that they were coming after these bases. So Qatar is another one that was hit, a base there. And then another thing I thought was interesting is that they spoke to the leader of Iran here on corporate media, and they actually asked him, "Why are you hitting this basis?" I thought this was hilarious. Everyone listen to this.
So for clarity, you said that you're.
That's the foreign minister.
Yeah, the foreign minister. Sorry,
yeah, Arachi. Yeah.
Missiles cannot reach the United States by design, that you do not want to reach the United States, but you also said it would be necessary as a defensive vehicle, that you could if necessary. So to be clear, are you committing that Iran is not and will not build missiles that would have the capability to reach the United States?
I can confirm, yes.
Sir, if that's a red line for you, why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us. They are U.S. military, installations, facilities, bases who are attacking us. We are under attack. Why don't you, recognize this fact? We are under the attack by U.S. forces in the region. So we have every right to defend ourselves. And how to defend ourselves? We attacked, the U.S. bases. This is obvious. This is a very simple fact. And I hope that, and I'm sure that people would understand that. We are not the one who attacked Americans. We are only defending ourselves.
He thinks our newspaper people and our TV people are smarter than they are. They don't get this. They simply don't get it. They've swallowed all the propaganda. They've swallowed it all.
Rachel Maddow right now is blaming all of this on the Gulf states, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. She's not blaming Israel or the U.S. government. She's blaming it all on the Gulf states. It's their fault that Iran was attacked.
Our paycheck comes from where. Indirectly, if not directly.
Exactly. And now, the craziest part about all this, which we did warn people would happen, is that U.S. troops have died now. So This is a new update. This came from U.S. Central Command. They said that 3 U.S., and the number continues to go up, by the way. At the time, it was 3 U.S. service members had been killed in action and 5 are seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. Several others sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty. Major combat operations continue. You can't hear me, Eric? Oh, 1 second. Test. Can you hear me, Eric?
I got you loud and clear.
Oh, okay. It's better now. Okay. I had to unplug it and plug it back in, but I think it's fine now. Okay. So anyway, back to what I was saying is that U.S. troops have been killed.
Yes.
And this is what we warned people, that this was going to happen. That
and
they're
going to be more. There are going to be more killed.
Well, to that point, this is what Donald Trump just said about the troops that were killed.
Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. Earlier today.
So, Colonel Wilkerson?
As a former soldier, a lifelong soldier, really, with combat experience and so forth, he makes me sick. He truly makes me ill to listen to him talk. He does not give a damn about a single one of those young men and women who might be killed. Not a damn. He's the one, remember, who said something to the tune of, to his chief of staff, who was a Marine general, anybody that gets killed is a dummy. John McCain was a dummy because John McCain got captured and spent time in a prison. This is the man who uttered these words about true American heroes. And now he wants me to believe that he's grieving over people he sent into hell. When he said and promised again and again and again, I wish we could play some of his promises, that these were stupid wars in the Middle East, that he would never get involved in them, that he was going to get us out of that place. Where are all these promises now? Where are all the promises about not getting involved in stupid, idiotic wars? They're gone because he doesn't mean a thing he says, not a thing. And as a military veteran, that really makes me angry.
Yeah, considering he also ran on it. He ran on being the president of peace, right? So a lot of people, I want to get your take on this before I show the next clip here, what's happening, because people in Pakistan are also, they've had it as well, and they're coming out against this. Have you heard from conservatives about, like, you know how we all feel on the left about this, but have you heard from conservatives and how they feel about a war with Iran? What have people told you, just like within like your personal circles?
Well, when I saw the poll results a few minutes ago, I had some doubts about it. So I started making a few calls, and I got the same thing from people I would call conservatives as I was getting from those poll results. Roughly 29 to 30% of the American people is all that supports this war. And they sort of span the gamut. I mean, you got a lot of people who voted for Joe Biden would support this war because they've all swallowed the hogwash. They've all swallowed the lies, and the lies have been reinforced, hammered home by Israel with lots of money behind them. Let's face it, our media today is virtually owned by Israel. I've had conversations with senior editors at the Washington Post that just make my blood boil because they will defend it to the nth degree that this or that is true, and I know it's a lie, and I know they know it's a lie. But it's not good editorial policy to go against Israel, the lobby, the Jewish lobby, the Israel lobby, as Mearsheimer likes to call it. You just don't do that. You might lose your job.
It's wild and crazy. I want to show people this as well. Again, this is how angry people are about this. In Pakistan, there were people protesting the Iran strikes. They were smashing windows at the U.S. Consulate. I want to show you guys this. Like, people are, this is, Donald Trump has really started a lot of damage within the past 48 hours. You'll see another one here. Like I'm telling you guys again, this is not just, it's not just Iran, the U.S. embassy in Pakistan. Yeah, I wanted to get your take on this, Colonel Wilkerson, because it goes to show people again, like countries around the world, they're seeing this. Everyone sees that Israel and the U.S. were the aggressors. Iran didn't strike Israel or the United States bases first. They attacked them. They are the aggressors.
The aggressor in this, by UN standards, by international law standards, by our own standards, is us. We had a conversation this morning about the War Powers Act, and I was telling this particular individual in Congress, why are you talking about the War Powers Act? How about the Constitution of the United States? We are waging war on another country that does not present a meaningful national security threat to us without the permission of the Congress, period. Don't tell me about the War Powers Act. I don't need that. The Constitution vests the war power in the Congress of the United States. Do you see them having voted for this war in Iran? I don't. Now, I don't know how they would vote because they're lick spittle too. But there hasn't been a vote. We just went to war. This is unconstitutional. This is an impeachable offense of the very first order.
It's insane. And since you brought up the War Powers Act and the Constitution, I just want to show people what Marjorie Taylor Greene just said about all this. You guys know that she resigned, but look at what she said. Congress is powerless, neutered, totally controlled by the executive branch as it obeys the White House. A complete waste of time, tragically. Why do you think so many are leaving? The White House didn't even bother to inform Congress about its reasons to attack Iran and barely informed five out of 8 of the Gang of 8. There should be a vote on the War Powers Resolution, but even that won't stop the administration from doing whatever they want to do. They do what they want, and you're a panican or a traitor if you dare disagree with them on even just a few issues. She goes on to say, but it won't last. You can't bully and name call people into agreeing with you for much longer and expected all coalitions to go out and vote for Republicans again. People just stop caring. And I would say this is on both sides of the aisle. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, as I'm sure you're aware of, they decided to come together on the Epstein situation, which I'll get to in just a second. But they also came together to try to force a vote on that War Powers resolution that you were talking about. And the reality is, Congress to me just seems spineless. Like, why is it just Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie? Why aren't people calling for impeachment? I'm curious, like, do you see that this is grounds for impeachment of Donald Trump?
It is. It is the most profound grounds. Just go back and read Madison. This is the most profound issue that the founders debated, and really why they put impeachment in there. Madison said the truest route to aggrandizement and to end of democracy and the republic was the war power in the hands of a single individual, which is why they made the Constitution like it is, that you need the Congress in order to go to war. The War Powers Act, in many respects, was actually unconstitutional because it had attempted to amend the Constitution without having a formal process with 3/4 of the people voting for it. And, so the War Powers Act is fine. Okay, great. It was Congress's opt-out of enforcing the Constitution. But I like the Constitution. I like the original Constitution, which says you have to have a vote and it has to pass. Now, when we were trying to get the U.S. out of supporting that horrible war the Saudis were waging against the Yemeni, we got a vote in both houses. We had to twist Democratic arms. We had to twist Republican arms. Nancy Pelosi wasn't going to have anything to do with it because she thought Saudi Arabia ought to be, treated nicely. We shouldn't stop helping them while they were killing these people in Yemen. But we finally got a vote, and Ro Khanna was in the middle of it. So were a number of other people that I can't name really now. But what happened, though, was it passed in both houses. That's what would happen now. It would pass in both houses, and then you would get a veto from the Trump president because it takes a 2/3 vote, and you're not going to get 2/3 vote out of this Congress to get it passed. So that's the war power shouldn't even be used here. I applaud them for trying to do it, but it should be the Constitution. They should use the Constitution, and they should tell the president, we're starting impeachment proceedings against you for the most flagrant violation of the Constitution that we know, and that is going to war without the permission of this legislative body, and then start impeachment. But they won't. They won't because, they're all, like Marjorie Taylor Greene said, they're all lickspittle. They get their money from AIPAC. They get their orders from AIPAC. They get their instructions from AIPAC. They have their life made for them by AIPAC.
Yeah, I think, many of us that have been talking about the Epstein files as well, we notice every time there's something damning that is revealed from the Epstein files that either implicates Donald Trump or his close buddies, he does something to turn your head away from that. In fact, Thomas Massey put out this statement earlier. PSA, bombing a country on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away any more than the Dow going above 50,000 will. So Thomas Massey knows what's going on here, right? Absolutely. I want to get your take on this as well. All this stuff that is being revealed via the Epstein files. Many of these things are things that Whitney Webb had reported on years ago and wrote about in her books as well as her articles. But some of these things, this is the first time I was hearing about. Donald Trump, his name has been redacted from the Epstein files. They have deleted files that mention his name. By they, I mean the DOJ. There's a number of people that are part of his administration that are also mentioned all throughout the files. But it's not just him. I mean, it's bipartisan. Bill Clinton's all through there, despite what he doesn't seem to recall all of a sudden. And it just goes to show you this idea about the Epstein class. It's like, it seems like this war with Iran also seems to be some type of a diversion to get people to look away from the Epstein files.
I think you're right on the mark. I think everything Trump is doing, including this war on Iran, is a maneuver to try and get attention away from what is becoming a very desperate situation for a lot of very powerful people. It's almost a person a day that either resigns, steps down, leaves an important job or whatever, and you know that that's just the surface. And I think underneath that surface, which is salacious enough by itself, is Donald Trump and probably his wife and other people directly connected with Donald Trump, some very important, rich people. And as long as that's the case, they're going to fight like hell and divert us from all manner of different things like this war in order to keep our attention off of Epstein, because that's what they're really scared of.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I want to get your take on this as well. It's just, do you think more Americans are starting to wake up to the fact that the president is not really the one running the United States?
I do. I think they have an inchoate understanding of it. And by that, I simply mean they don't have a media. There's no media other than people like you and, you know, the other podcasters and so forth. I saw today where Larry Johnson on Judge Napolitano had 800,000 listeners almost immediately. I mean, that's the craving that people have for the truth. And they're getting the truth more or less on social media or podcasts like your own or like the Judges or like some of the others, much more so. They're getting the truth from Tucker Carlson often now, which is a real odd thing to be saying, but they are. The old Fox guy who once was involved with the greatest liar in our media complex, Fox News. But he's, you know, I think probably because he's a genuine Christian. And I might not agree with all of his interpretations of Christianity, but I certainly agree with him more than I do Ted Cruz or any of these people that take all their guidance from Genesis. It's a shame that the American people have been lied to for so long because they have no genuine information upon which to act. And so you can't blame them except for being a little bit naive maybe from time to time, because these people are getting elected over and over and over again. And many of them now don't even go home to town hall meetings because they know they're going to get ravaged if they do. All they do is count on AIPAC giving them enough money to buy their office. And that's what they do. They buy their office, essentially. This is a sad situation for the Republic, really. And the people need to wake up, and they need to start being counted. And they need to start calling, and they need to start visiting, and they need to hammer their members of Congress. They need to hammer their senators day in and day out. I don't care how they hammer them on the telephone, emails, or whatever. They will respond eventually if enough people threaten them in terms of their staying in office. That's the only recourse that we have, really, when you think about it, is either threatening them enough to where they are changing in office in the way they vote, or they leave. And by the way, have you seen, Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about this, have you seen how many people are leaving? And generally speaking, if you talk to them, they'll tell you they're leaving. Tom Massey said this to me. Tom Massey said this to me and Ambassador Chaz Freeman in a meeting we had with him. We were talking to him about the incapacity of the Congress to do anything, and he agreed. And he went on about it for a good 15 minutes telling us what was wrong with the Congress. And we said, why are you still here? And he said, that's a good question, but I think I'm making a difference, and I'm going to keep on as long as I think I'm making a difference. And look at him. He's a Republican, and he keeps getting reelected, and he doesn't have an AIPAC handler. He doesn't take money from AIPAC. So it can be done. It can be done. His is not the only sane district in the country, I hope, because they keep returning him to Congress.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said that, like, we, especially those of us that are voters, we have to stop just reelecting these people just because. Like, that's something I've been trying to drive to people. Like, you don't owe them your vote. They're not even listening to their constituents. And you know, pay attention to the ones that are. And all these people that are leaving, it's a sinking ship, Larry.
Yes, yes. And so many people will tell you, well, I'm not going to vote for that person because he's a Democrat. Wait a minute. You're going to vote for the Republican because he's a Republican, and you're not going to vote for the Democrat because he's a Democrat, and the Democrat is saying he's going to act in your interest and the Republican is not? That doesn't make any sense. Don't give me this party stuff. Give me what he's going to do. Give me what she says she's going to do. Give me what is real. Don't tell me about parties. Screw parties.
You're speaking my language there, Larry. Screw parties. No, that's a big part of the divide, is that people are just broken up into those camps. And so they're like, well, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat, so I got to support the party regardless who that nominee is or whatever. But that gets us things like this, like what we have right now. Quick question here about the economy. I have a feeling that Donald Trump knows that the economy is about to go kaputs. And I feel like that's also part of his distraction, all these other things. He's bringing up, oh, let's look into aliens. Let's look into all these, just anything to take your attention away. And I just feel like you think people would just go up to him one day and just say, you know, screw you. Just get out of here. You're not for the working class. You're not for the people. You're for corporations and the Epstein class. And I hope more people realize that. I hope the farmers who went out and supported Donald Trump, I hope they realize just who he is actually working for.
They certainly should, because the farm economy is really hurting, really hurting. And the only reason they don't feel the pain as acutely as they would otherwise, and therefore it will come, is because he's subsidizing. He's got the Congress giving him so much money in subsidies. That isn't going to last, because our debt right now is so profound that it matches roughly, and maybe even in some categories exceeds what it was after World War II, when our debt was as high as in our existence as a national entity. We have $1 trillion interest payments now on our debt. Every year we have to pay $1 trillion. You know how we were doing that? We were doing it because people like the Japanese, the Chinese, and others were buying our debt. Bingo. Isn't going to happen anymore, even with our allies. And China has just declared that they are going to cement their power in the world with the #1 financial country in the world. They know they're the #1 technological, the #1 industrial, the #1 capitalist country in the world. And they are, by all the parameters. They're not the #1 financial country. Xi Jinping just signed a document, sent it out to all the Chinese bureaucrats, and said, now we are going to become the #1 financial country in the world too, and we're going to round off our power. Well, what does that mean? That means their renminbi, their currency, is going to replace the dollar. That means our debt is going to skyrocket in terms of our incapacity to pay it, because the way we would pay it because we had the transactional currency, was that people would buy our debt and they would therefore fund our wars, fund our incredible debt. That's stopping. And once the renminbi becomes the world's currency, it'll stop cold in its tracks. I don't wish that on anyone, because that is going to be a tragedy. We're going to have something even worse than 1932 and 33. We're going to have a terrible situation in this country because we're going to be flat broke.
Well, Colonel Wilkerson, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise. And let's hope that things improve here.
I hope so too, but I really don't see any way how this situation in Southwest Asia is going to improve. I think it's going to go just very slowly downhill. And I would not put it past Bibi Netanyahu to let the genie out of the bottle and use a nuclear weapon.
That is the most scary part.
That is very frightening, very frightening. But those words he uttered in Hebrew told me that he's thinking about it. I would almost bet they've already moved bombs.
Crazy stuff. Crazy. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on, Colonel Wilkerson.
Thank you for having me. Keep shouting to the rooftops.
I will.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Colonel Larry Wilkerson, a really great guest, knows a lot about geopolitics. And, you know, people have had it with these wars. Eric, can we go ahead to part 2 for Tight VNC? We have 4 more stories that we do want to cover, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the theme is all hell breaks loose, because that's just the reality, folks. If you haven't done so, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Let's keep it moving and grooving, folks. We got to get to another story here. This is quite a crazy one. We're going to go to the what happened to Jim Carrey. Oh, we're going to what happened to, okay. Let's go to what happened to Jim Carrey, because this is wild. We'll go to something not as heavy, since we just covered the war story, and then we'll get to some super chats and we'll get to the other ones. So actor Jim Carrey was known for not really giving a shit about award shows, not really caring about the Hollywood culture or Hollywood life. For those who are not aware, Jim Carrey talked about this before, but at one point before he got his first big acting gig, he was homeless. He was living in his car. So he never really got into all this glitz and glam stuff, and he didn't really care for award shows. That was one of the big things. Like if he had to be there, he was there, and he would tell you he just didn't really care. So my question is, who the hell is this? Because Melanie King called him Jim Scary. This doesn't even not only look like the same person, it doesn't sound like the same person. And people are asking, what happened to Jim Carrey? Did Hollywood get to him? We'll go ahead and show you this one here.
Bonsoir. Merci beaucoup. C'est très gentil. En tant qu'acteur, chaque personnage.
So first of all, he's speaking in French. His face looks different. I know that's the big thing that people have pointed out. But look how happy he looks to be there. He's not his sarcastic self that he usually is when he has to attend these things.
Que vous incarnez, c'est comme l'argile du sculpteur que vous façonnez à la forme de votre cœur, carré, à boucler le boucle.
So this was the award show that he attended. I believe this award show was in France. And then if you look at the picture here, people are asking what happened to Jim Carrey's face. So he did win an award there. Again, it's not something he particularly cares about. We'll go to another one here. People are pointing out his eyes. So let me just bring this one up here.
Bonjour. Oh, it's a wonderful feeling.
Let me make this a little bit louder for you. He's talking about how this is such a wonderful feeling.
took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French.
So trying to do his speech in French, look how happy he looks to be there. I'm going to show you the contrast in just a second. Look how excited he looks.
Bonjour, how are you?
Oh, it's a wonderful feeling. I really took on a pretty big challenge trying to do my speech in French. So, I wrote it and I researched it and I practiced it like crazy. But, it's, then I watched everybody like talking 1,000 miles an hour up there, receiving their awards. And I was like, I'm dead. And I made mistakes and I was like a novice, but I felt a lot of love and I felt a lot of appreciation that I tried, and what I said was true, and I really wanted to recognize my family. I wanted to recognize my dad. I mean, my dad was the type of person that if you met him for 5 minutes, you felt like you knew him for 50 years. I can't talk about him without getting emotional. Oh, loved it. It's so beautiful. And having Michelle, Camille Coton, was also amazing. And it was just a brilliant evening,
This was the big kicker. It was just a brilliant evening. So some people say it is him. Some people say it's not him. But the reality is you've never seen him speak this way about an awards show or ceremony ever. His face looks different. It looks like he got like a big facelift or something like that. But it's the behavior for me. People in Hollywood get facelifts all the time. I didn't think that was something he cared about either. You see what I'm saying? But for me, it's his behavior. Jim Carrey never behaved this way, like at award shows. I know I was a Jim Carrey stan. I watched every Jim Carrey movie, like back, especially when I was growing up back in the day. Jim Carrey movies were my thing. So I used to watch a lot of his stuff. I saw him at award shows and stuff like that. He used to make fun of award shows. I'm going to show you the difference in just a second.
Really brilliant evening. Oh my gosh. Benjamin Laverne was off the hook. I mean, I can't believe he committed to doing all that. I was really, is this about someone else? My favorite funny face is the one I'm wearing right now.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Timu Jim Carrey is a really good one. He said his favorite funny face is the one that he's wearing right now. We'll go to another one here. Again, people are just like, who is this? This is all from that same night.
I think France knows a lot about art, and I am touched to be a part of this great tradition.
I don't know what happened with that video. Let me try this again. There we go.
I think France knows a lot about art, and I am touched to be a part of this great tradition. I feel as if I just won the lottery. It's something more special, I think, to come here and be recognized.
So he said that he feels like he just won the lottery. Again, he never cared about these things, you guys. Did not care about
I
it.
feel like I have a connection with people. All of these films that have kind of stood the test of time and been special for people for a while, they're too much to ask for. I'm just the luckiest person in the world that way. All I ever wanted to do was sing to people. The way we sing to each other with our art, with our.
Big Foe said it looks like Tom Brady.
Writing, with our theater, with our cinema, we are singing to each other. So, I'm just glad that I get to share my song, and I'm glad you're listening, and you're answering back.
Yeah, just very different behavior, different attitude from him there that I've never seen before. But there's something else, so people are pointing at this picture. To be fair, this is, more than 10 years. You're talking about 20 years apart. People are showing a picture of him from 2006 versus 2026. That is a 20-year difference. But I think the thing that stands out for people are the eyes, right? Like his eyes look different. It looks like, to me, it looks like he got fillers right here in the cheeks, and it looks like a facelift to me. But it's the behavior for me that I was paying attention to. Check out this one here.
And I practiced it like crazy, but you know, it's
Everyone online is convinced that Hollywood has gotten to Jim Carrey because who is this? This is not Jim Carrey, is it? Jim is in Paris because they had the Caesar Awards and he gave a speech there. He was also honored. And typically Jim Carrey doesn't like these Hollywood kind of things. So people were confused as to why he was so happy to be there.
I don't care.
But Jim, you got really dressed up for the occasion. You look good. Is that an accident?
I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
It's just things happening.
That's the Jim Carrey.
That's the Jim Carrey that you're used to seeing at award shows, not really caring.
That I remember, but people are picking apart his red carpet and his speech from last night. Some people are pointing out that his eyes look very different. They've got a point. Actually, looking at these photos of Jim Carrey from the past, he's got these brown eyes, but last night, whoever that was had kind of like blue-green eyes. I think that Jim Carrey's really gone. Not really. Maybe he's kind of like lost himself to Hollywood because the plastic surgery is getting a little out of hand, but the internet's convinced that he's been replaced by a clone. What do you think?
They took.
Yeah. So that's what people are saying. They think he's been cloned. Look at this video. This one I think is the most damning. Jim Carrey is left-handed. Watch this.
Sign his autograph? There are 3 details that suggest he's not the real Jim Carrey. First, he used his right hand to sign autographs for fans, but it's well known that the real Jim Carrey is left-handed, and he himself has confirmed this in interviews. Whether writing or casually holding things in public, Jim Carrey always uses his left hand, as it's an ingrained habit. The impersonator might have learned the appearance, but overlooked this small detail. Secondly, his appearance is drastically different from Jim Carrey's. The real Jim Carrey has his signature neat, short hair with a relaxed facial structure that exudes energy, even without exaggerated expressions. This person, on the other hand, has messy long hair that doesn't suit him, a stiff, unnatural face, lacks his signature facial contours, and even appears abnormally puffy. There's no trace of Jim Carrey. Lastly, his pupil color is very different from Jim Carrey's. Jim's eyes are deep brown with a distinct clarity in any lighting condition, which is a natural, identifiable feature of his. This person's eyes, however, are blue, and under the strong stage lights, they even have an unnaturally translucent quality. This is one of the hardest traits for an impersonator to fake.
Yeah. So I think the thing that stands out the most is the left hand versus the right hand, right? But here's what I think may have happened. To me, it seemed like, I don't know, it almost seemed like Jim Carrey took some happy pills. That's what it seemed like to me. Like, I don't know. It's just that the behavior is different. Maybe he could have had a facelift. I mean, people do this in Hollywood. I don't know. That wasn't his thing before. Maybe he got talked into it. I don't know. All I know is Jim Carrey seems very different than the Jim Carrey that we all were familiar with, at least from afar, because we don't know him personally, right? At least I don't. I don't know about you guys. But it brings up this question about Hollywood, about how they get people to change themselves, how they mold people into what they want them to be. And Jim Carrey was someone who was always willing to, fight back against that and say, no, I am who I am. I'm not going to, be this puppet that you want me to be. And he never really, got into or cared about those types of superficial things when it comes to Hollywood. And so to me, it just kind of seems like Hollywood got to him. And it happens to a lot of people. So I don't know. But I think the most telling thing, people are talking about the eyes, people are talking about the hair. I think the most telling thing is someone who is left-handed all of a sudden writing with their right hand. That's weird. Crazy stuff, ladies and gents. Crazy stuff. Figured we get into that since a number of people have been talking about that on social media. The next story is kind of weird. And I have to start off by asking you this question. Is it against the law for someone to disappear? Is it legal for you to just get up one day and decide to disappear? Well, that's the question that people are asking now. A North Carolina woman who has been missing for years apparently has been found and apparently was never missing. She just did not want to be bothered. I kid you not. I thought it was a joke at first. It's not. I want to show you this video when her daughter was looking for her. This was years later, and her daughter had been looking for her for a long time. She wanted answers after 20 years. Listen to this. 20 years at that time when this interview aired, her mom was missing for 20 years. And you guys have heard about these missing, people cases before, right? Like someone's missing and who knows how long. Like for some people, they may be missing for like a year, or like Elizabeth Smart, for example. I think she was gone for like a year and a half, and then, they found her. But 20 years. So by that time, the family members, they've mostly given up hope and they move on with their lives, right? So what would you do if it was your mom that had been missing for 20 years and you find out that she was actually never missing in the first place? That she just decided to leave and not return? How would you feel? That's why I wanted you to see. Asking people for help at that point in time. They were still holding out hope 20 years later that the mom was still around. Well, it turns out that she is alive. She's been alive all this time. And it turns out that she was not missing. She just didn't want to be found. That is the kicker, ladies and gents. Listen to this. I don't know what's going on with this thing, but
we are on top of shocking breaking news tonight on WFMY News 2 at 11. A Rockingham County woman who's been missing for 24 years has been found alive and well. Michelle Hundley Smith disappeared while Christmas shopping back in 2001. While she's safe tonight, deputies say she doesn't want anyone to know where she is. All we know is that she was found in North Carolina. As you can imagine, this is a major development for Smith's family that spent more than 2 decades looking for her. WFMY News 2's Christina Dillon talked to one of her cousins about the moment she learned Michelle was alive.
For decades, Barbara Bird held on to a feeling that her cousin Michelle was still out there. Tonight, after 24 years of questions, she can finally say it out loud.
I kind of want to go outside and scream, she's alive, she's alive.
That's how Barbara Bird describes the moment she got the news. Her cousin, Michelle Hundley Smith, has been found alive. Smith was a 38-year-old mother when she left her Eden home in December 2001 to go Christmas shopping in Martinsville, Virginia. She never came home, and her car was never found.
So when I first heard this part, the first thing you may think is, okay, she left the house to go Christmas shopping. Maybe she was mugged. Maybe she was robbed, right? Like that happens a lot during the holidays. People are shopping for gifts and stuff like that. And she didn't come home. So it was like, maybe this was a mugging that went even crazier and she was kidnapped or something like that, right? And then I also thought about this fact, the fact that she didn't return home. I wondered, what if there was some type of abuse that was happening at home? What if she was a victim of domestic abuse? You may never know. But all this time, while law enforcement was looking for her and they were using resources and things like that, they never found her until now. And she was alive the whole time. Not kidnapped, not missing. She got in the car and decided to leave. Then I thought about this. I said, well, if she was a victim of domestic abuse, why would she leave the children? Because usually this is the biggest hurdle, right? If someone is in that situation and they have kids, they're like, well, I don't want to leave my kids with the abuser. I want to take my kids with me. So now I thought maybe that wasn't the situation. But she was 38 years old and she decided to go Christmas shopping and not come back home.
Years, her family didn't know whether they were grieving or waiting. They gave interviews, asked for tips, kept her name in the public eye, featuring her story on Dateline and true crime podcasts. Was it an accident, foul play, or did she walk away? They never knew until today.
The answer I got today was she was alive. Nothing else matters right at this moment.
Rockingham County deputies say they learned new information about her whereabouts this week through a nationwide law enforcement network. So they followed the lead and found her, alive and well. They say she's still in the state, but at her request, deputies say they're not sharing her location. The sheriff's office says it doesn't expect to file any charges.
So they're not going to file any charges. She does not want people to know her location. In other words, she does not want to be found. She really doesn't. I would think after all that time, like maybe she would at least want to see her kids or, see how they're doing. She does not want to be found. And a number of people were asking about this photo. Back in the day, there was this store in the mall called Glamour Shots. So this is a glamour shot photo where you would go in there and they would make you up and it would be like all glamorous and stuff like that. So people are asking like, what's the deal with that type of photo or whatever. But she doesn't want to be found. She clearly wants to be left alone. And I guess my question is like, the resources that went into trying to find her, like search and rescue, all of those things, when she wasn't missing at all. It's kind of weird. And someone mentioned mental breakdown in the chat. It makes me wonder too, like maybe this was like a mental issue where maybe she just felt she wasn't thinking clearly and just felt like, I just want out of this. I really don't know. I don't know how anyone can leave their kids. I really don't. I've never understood that. But I couldn't imagine my mom being missing for over 20 years. And then all of a sudden I'm told that she's not missing, that she is alive, but she does not want to be found. She does not want you to know her location. She ain't trying to speak to you. None of that. She just wants to be left alone. How would you feel? Because I'm thinking to myself, those girls, the family, they never get those years back.
For family, there are lots of lingering questions.
What happened all them years ago in December? What made you leave? What happened?
Bird says she's not angry and respects her cousin's request for privacy. Years ago, Smith's youngest brother asked Bird to keep a promise before he passed away. Tonight, she says she can finally keep it.
He asked me to promise that we would find her. And I'm going to say this out loud. She's okay, Brian.
Bird says Smith is still loved in Rockingham County, and she hopes one day they might have a conversation.
It's wild, man. Like, again, like I said, I didn't even believe this. At first, I was like, is this for real? They go into a little bit more detail here about how they found her. Mom, who vanished without a trace 24 years ago, found alive, leaving family with unanswered questions. And it just goes on to say here, I'll make this bigger for you. On Friday, February 20th, the Rockingham County Sheriff's Office shared that Michelle Hunley Smith, now 62, who was first reported missing in December 31st of 2001, had been located after detectives received new information about her disappearance. Goes on to say here, again, she's at an undisclosed location. At her request, her current whereabouts will remain undisclosed. Officials said the Smith family was notified that she had been located, and they were informed about her request to keep her whereabouts undisclosed. So I don't know, but maybe one day she will decide to sit down and have a conversation like with her family. I really don't know, but I do feel like if you were in that situation, how would you feel? Just knowing all those years you were hoping, number one, hoping that she was alive. And then you find out she's alive. So you're glad about that. But then you find out that she doesn't want to talk to you, Just makes you think. All right, let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Eric, can we go to part 3 of Type VNC? Thank you. All right. Shout out to Herman Lee for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Herman a big whoop whoop. Shout out to Joseph for becoming a Sabby member. Give Joseph a big whoop whoop. Yeah. Thank you, Full Drink. Amazing work, Sabs. Thank you. Thank you for the super sticker, Dublin. Thank you, Vilma. Iran is never a threat to the US, UK, and EU. The reverse is true with Israel and the wealthy Arab oligarchs at the US, UK's, and EU's service. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, Joanne. Not in my name. That's right, Joanne. Thank you, Just Major. What do you think China's strategy will be to counter their loss of oil? I have no idea. You know what? That's a question for Danny Haifong. I would say ask Danny about that because Danny's been to China a couple of times. Good question, though. Thank you, Adriana. This is scary. How can Trump not know how destructive this is? I wish we can just back away and let Israel handle. What can we, the people, do about this? Well, number one, there have been emergency protests that started on Saturday. I say follow Answer Coalition. Follow them online. You can follow them on Twitter or follow their websites. They're doing a number of protests. But ultimately, as a voter, you got to stop voting for the politicians that are pro-war. That's ultimately, it's not just about people taking money from AIPAC. It's the politicians that are pro-war. And we can talk more about building dual power because I keep telling you guys, mutual aid is going to be a necessity at some point. So I do have another mutual aid workshop that is coming up this weekend. I'll shout that out and I'll send it out via my newsletter. Thank you for the super sticker, Gina. Thank you, Borican. MSM media is so... The lack of integrity and intelligence is breathtaking. Propaganda in full effect. Thank you, Flyaway. Yet he calls members of the military losers. Thank you, Megan. The U.S. military can refuse these war crimes. True. Thank you, Teta. Thank you, Sabby, for going after truth always. Thanks, Laura. There will be more Marines fallen, says Trump. How easy is it for him to say it? They are his beloved ones. They're not his beloved ones. Yeah, he don't give a crap. Thank you, Gamble. The way this man flippantly speaks of our fallen. Thank you for the super sticker, Ajish. Thank you, Flyaway. Scott Ritter said, now the person that took over their supreme leader position wants to make a nuclear weapon. How effing stupid is this dickless wonder? I don't know. Who's the dickless? I don't know. Thank you, Dublin. Thank you. Thank you, Brett. Time ticking down on the United States of Israel. Shout out to Roger, who's been a member for 32 months. He speaks the truth, Sab, about controlled media. Ever since Netflix seceded to Ellison, the purchase of Warner Brothers, he has now become the owner of all media. Thank you, Flyaway. Wonder what the price at the pump will be tomorrow. Yeah. Oh, man. Thank you, Full Drink. We talk about pop culture BS all day, every day, make videos and live stream BS constantly. I'm hella proud of you, Sabs, talking about important topics that really have an effect on our daily well-being. Big salute. Thank you. Oh, I try to mix up my topics because, I like variety. Thank you, at Kid. Salute to Sabby. 360K subs and 9,000 live views. Wow. Live viewers. I didn't realize it was that many. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to Keon for the super sticker. And we're going to go ahead and stop it there. Eric will be able to pick up the rest in a second. Okay. Let's go ahead and get to the next story. Oh, we're missing the Hakeem Jeffries story. Can we go back to the other part of Type VNC? We should be going to that one and then the Epstein one last. One second, guys. Okay. All right, we're going to get into the story here about Hakeem Jeffries. This is something I've been warning people about. Just because, some of these candidates are now getting to the point where they're saying that they're not going to take money from AIPAC, but they're still taking money and they're doing it in a sneaky way. And Hakeem Jeffries is a part of that. So this was called out recently by Drop Site News. There's something shady going on here, folks. Check this out. A shadow super PAC that appears linked to Hakeem Jeffries is swooping in NC4 to back Valerie Foushee over Nida Alam, a rematch of a race AIPAC spent $2 million plus to win in 2022. This appears to be a new backdoor way in for AIPAC, funneling through Hakeem Jeffries. This PAC also spent $350K in New Jersey 11, where AIPAC accidentally boosted anti-Zionist and Alila Magia. They're spending over $257,000, mostly on broadcast and NC4. So let me break this down for you folks, because Ryan Grimm was calling this out. And Gen X girl tried to warn people about this last year. But long story short, they know that people are watching the money now. They know that people are checking to see where these candidates are getting money from by using open secrets is the biggest one to use, right? So AIPAC decided to get sneaky. They're basically using Hakeem Jeffries as a vehicle where, because you already know that Hakeem takes money from AIPAC, they're basically going through him. And then he is then endorsing and supporting these other candidates, still funneling in the AIPAC money. So this is why I said it's not enough for a candidate to say that they're just not going to take money from AIPAC. AIPAC has become more sneaky, more sly, and they found other ways to get that money through, hoping that you don't notice it. Ryan Grimm shows you here the PAC spent the money backing Tahisha Way, AIPAC's preferred but ill-fated candidate in New Jersey 11. Now they're spending over $250K plus for Foushee. This comes after Hakeem Jeffries named Foushee to be one of the 3 Dems on an AI task force, which then invited huge $700,000 and counting AI money to get in behind her. So here's a PAC here, Schedule E, Independent Expenditures. Here's the filing number. Here's the committee, Article 1 PAC, ALAL. Sorry, I thought that was AI. AL Media LLC. And this is what they do, guys. They have these other PACs. He called them shadow PACs. I think that's the right term. They have these other PACs that they use, like AL Media, or it could be named anything else. And they'll use this to funnel money through. So you can see it here. Name of federal candidate supported or opposed by expenditure, Tahisha Way. Amount expended. Look at all the money here. Over $350,000, right? So they use these shadow PACs to donate money to a candidate without you knowing that they're donating the money. So instead of using just a super PAC, they're now using a shadow PAC. And that's how they still get those candidates to do their bidding. So you might think that you're supporting someone that says, well, that person said they're not going to take AIPAC money. I checked open secrets. They're not taking money from the pro-Israel lobby. I'm going to support them. But they are still taking money from the pro-Israel lobby. They're doing so through shadow PACs. And Hakeem Jeffries is one of the vehicles that's being used to do so. In fact, if we go back, he was sharing this here from Gen X Girl. Here's why it's a backdoor for AIPAC. They're giving to Jeffries, who then gives to the candidates. Gen X Girl noticed it. Matthew Eady recently discovered how AIPAC is hiding its donations using 3 campaigns for Hakeem Jeffries. I created a graphic to help you understand how the secret campaigns are structured and why you won't be able to see AIPAC in FEC filings, but AIPAC will still be able to track donations through unique IDs and show candidates how much their network has donated to buy pro-Israel votes. And this is a good example here, how AIPAC is hiding pro-Israel donations. So if you use Hakeem Jeffries as a vehicle, he's right here, right? AIPAC donates money to him. Hakeem Jeffries, it says here, please contribute to Jeffries' Victory Fund. Here's another example. Contribute to Jeffries' Victory Fund. You see all these victory funds? So AIPAC is donating money to Hakeem Jeffries' Victory Fund. Hakeem Jeffries then in return donates to other candidates. And that's how AIPAC can say we're funding those candidates as well. Hakeem Jeffries is a tool. He's being used as a tool. This is how sneaky he is. But see, remember when we said Hakeem Jeffries had to go, all these people from DSA and etc. said, no, you can't remove him because he's the minority speaker. He has to stay there. This guy been bought and paid for. He takes a lot of money from the pro-Israel lobby. AIPAC directs its donors to the pro-Israel network using the website and via email campaigns. Pro-Israel Network uses Democracy Engine as its payment processor. Donations are recorded as individual donations from Democracy Engine. In the back end, each pro-Israel network campaign is recorded with a unique ID. If we come back here, it was Matthew Eady who realized this. I think we covered this last year about Democracy Engine. That's another one that's being used to funnel money from AIPAC. And so if you were to go to Open Secrets, oh, they took that down, I see. If you were to go to Open Secrets, you would only see that they got money from Democracy Engine or that they received money from Hakeem Jeffries' Victory Fund. But you would no longer see that they got money from AIPAC, even though they did. So they're sneaky. And I'm willing to bet if they're using Hakeem Jeffries, they're probably using other politicians as well. I would look into Richie Torres. I would look into all of them. So this is why I say you really got to be grassroots. You really do. Now, I've had it podcast a while back when she was interviewing Joy Reid. She said that she does not think Hakeem Jeffries should have to leave. Listen to what she's saying now.
Hakeem Jeffries is compromised and he needs to resign. Serious members of the Progressive Caucus have got to quit playing patty cake with this guy. He is a corporate dim through and through, and he is a fascist collaborator. There's no question that Chuck Schumer is as well, but we will not retain our democracy with the Democratic Party taking money from Palantir. We are not going to retain our country with the Democratic Party taking donations from AIPAC. The corporate Dems are controlled opposition. Chuck Schumer is controlled opposition, and it gets worse, you guys. It gets worse.
Pause here for a second, right? So Hakeem Jeffries is also helping out Palantir, AIPAC, but this is the guy that DSA told you should not have a challenger. He does have a challenger. Vance Bostic is running against him, but people don't want to interview him. I brought him on because he doesn't have the approval of DSA. They don't want to talk to him. I don't even know. I don't know if I've had a podcast knows that Hakeem Jeffries has a challenger, but the ones that I do know don't want to talk to him because he doesn't have the approval of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. What are we even doing? Because the word went around that Hakeem has to stay. So I'm going to say it again. Either you support candidates that take money from the Israel lobby or you don't. I don't support candidates that take money from the Israel lobby, but they can't come in and make these exceptions for Hakeem Jeffries. And I see now Jennifer from I've Had It podcast, I see now she's changing her tune. Let's continue on.
Pop this up. Matthew Eady recently discovered how AIPAC is hiding its donations using 3 campaigns for, you guessed it, Hakeem Jeffries, aka AIPAC Shakur. I created a graphic to help you understand how the secret campaigns are structured and why you won't be able to see AIPAC in FEC filings, but AIPAC will still be able to track donations through unique IDs and show candidates how much their network has donated to buy pro-Israel votes. And here is the graph. You can see it here, AIPAC. And then we have the democracy engine. 3 of these that are funneled through Hakeem Jeffries. So let's review here. Keep this up.
So the way that you fight back against this is that you have to support candidates that run grassroots campaigns. That's it. You cannot support candidates like Hakeem. I don't care if they say something good about, well, yeah, I think we should expand Medicare or something like that. No. You have to look at the money. You got to follow the money. So if they're not running a grassroots campaign, don't give them your votes. Hakeem should have been gone. He wasn't supposed to be there anyway. The guy he was running against, Charles Barron, that's who he was running against. Charles Barron was beating him in the polls. Then all of a sudden, this anti-Semitism smear comes out against Charles Barron. Oh, how convenient. And Hakeem Jeffries jumps up in the polls. Now, Hakeem won't talk about this, but I will. And I've often pointed this out. I wonder if his team was behind this. That's how Hakeem Jeffries won that seat, for those who are not aware. Charles Barron was beating him. Charles Barron was a Black Panther. He's pro-Palestine. And just like that, the pro-Israel lobby came in and made sure that Hakeem would get that seat. They've done it time and time again.
Hakeem Jeffries is Palantir first. Hakeem Jeffries is Israel first. How can Hakeem Jeffries care about immigrant children when he doesn't care about Palestinian children, and he takes money from a genocidal government that's ran by a war criminal, a far-right fascist war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu, that funded Hamas? And then you see all this money they're filtering in to candidates. And so here's how it works, you guys. AIPAC directs its donors to the pro-Israel network website via email campaigns. And then the pro-Israel network uses Democracy Engine as its payment processor. That's AIPAC Shakur. That's Hakeem Jeffries. And then donations are recorded as individual donations from Democracy Engine. In the back end, each pro-Israel network campaign is recorded with a unique ID. The Democratic Party cannot be for a blank check to Israel, who is run by a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu. We cannot be this party. This is a uniparty. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are controlled opposition, full stop. They take money from MAGA donors, and then they get on camera and lie to the American people. And you might say, Jennifer, quit browbeating Democrats. I can get on here all day long and I can browbeat Republicans, because tomorrow Trump's going to do something more illegal, more unethical. He's going to cover up more child rape stuff from the Epstein files. It's going to happen every single day, and the Republicans are going to allow him to do it. But the Democrats have to be in opposition. And when you find out the Democratic leadership is taking money from Palantir and AIPAC and God knows who else, and then you keep thinking, why aren't they putting up a resistance? Why aren't they opposing him at every turn? Why aren't they saying abolish ICE? Why aren't they saying no more blank check to Israel? No, we're stopping that. Absolutely not cooperating with a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu.
So one thing I want to push back on here is that she said they're MAGA donors. There's no such thing as a MAGA donor. There's no such thing as a progressive donor, Democrat donor, MAGA donor. They're just donors. I don't understand why people try to separate these things. There is no such thing as a MAGA donor. They are donors, and they will donate to any candidate that is willing to do their bidding. That's how it works. Like, I don't know what to tell you guys, but I've been saying this for years. A lot of these donors donate to the same parties, Republican and Democrat. They don't care. They just want to see who is going to do their bidding. The only way that you can seriously wash away from this is you got to support people that have grassroots campaigns funded by the people, not by AIPAC, not by, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, United Healthcare. That's how you do that. But this is something I would say, and I feel like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes even on the liberal side, some of the liberals still kind of like feel like there's MAGA donors and there's, Democrat. No, they're just donors. And people that got money that are donating to candidates, they will donate to anyone that is willing to fulfill their agenda. We literally have corporations that are writing legislation. You get what I'm saying? We have lobby interest groups that are writing legislation. So the money is a big part of the problem. So I noticed a lot of people were losing it online when that information came out, and they were like, oh my gosh, it was like all hell broke loose when people heard that Hakeem Jeffries was doing this. But people have been talking about this for years. So I'm glad more people are waking up. But yeah, man, anytime this guy was more focused on a hip hop day instead of feeding people, giving people health care, that should have told you everything that you needed to know. And you even see here, what did I tell you? Even when it came to the War Powers resolution, Hakeem Jeffries, who held off on a War Powers resolution long enough for Trump to go start the war before it came to a vote, does not condemn Trump's attack in his initial response. The party leadership, as we reported last week, is eager to see Trump launch this war. Hakeem Jeffries knows how to play the game. And Hakeem Jeffries knows that there is a certain image he's supposed to present to his base. And then there's what happens behind closed doors. That at the end of the day, a lot of these people, they're just working for their donors. I don't know. It's kind of like people see them on these separate teams. And Hakeem Jeffries, he talks a lot about MAGA and he criticizes MAGA. And you'll see this happen on the Republican side. They criticize the Democrats, right? But at the end of the day, it's like Michael Johnson, good grief, Michael Jordan, sorry. It's like Michael Jordan wearing a Bulls jersey on the court in front of the public, but behind the scenes, he puts on a Lakers jersey. Behind the scenes, all these people have the same agenda in common, and that is to do the bidding of their donors and to protect the status quo. That's what their donors want. That's why they don't want you to go too far left, because that doesn't benefit corporations. That's how it works. So publicly, Hakeem Jeffries will pretend like, I'm outraged. Oh my God, Trump is crazy, blah, blah, blah. But behind the scenes, they agree with what he is doing that protects the status quo. They nod their heads, him and Chuck Schumer, and that's how they're still there. JB said LeBron before LeBron. I was thinking about Michael Jackson because the Michael Jackson movie is about to come out. All right, Eric, we can go to the next part. The Michael Jackson movie is about to come out. I saw the trailer for it, and that's been kind of on my mind. Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa. Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa. Hey. All right, let's get to the final story, ladies and gents. We have an Epstein file reveal. Again, this information came out and Iran was hit right after it. This is very damning because it proves that Howard Lutnick is a liar. it proves that Brett Ratner is a damn liar, and it proves that Donald Trump is a liar. All three of them. This photograph has been removed from the Epstein files. Let me show you something about this photograph. Shout out to J-Mail. The DOJ removed this photo of what appears to be Howard Lutnick. You can still access it on J-Mail. So J-Mail, they basically took all the files from the Epstein files that they, right away, and they put it through J-Mail. So you go to J-Mail and you can still see some of the files that the DOJ removed. Let's look at this picture, shall we? Here's Jeffrey Epstein in the white shirt, obviously. This guy right here in the blue button-down shirt and the white shorts is Howard Lutnick. They're on an island. See the water? See the sand? This guy over here looks very much like Brett Ratner, the guy who said he never went on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Howard Lutnick said he went to the island with his family, with his kids. Do you see any kids in this picture? Do you see the wife? Right, it's all good. Where are his wife and kids? Where they at? All I see are dudes. I don't know who was in the orange shirt, and we can't see the guy's face over here. But here's Howard Lutnick on the island with Jeffrey Epstein, and it appears again, this looks like Brett Ratner, who said he never went there, with no kids. The DOJ removed this picture, probably because of what I just told you. They're protecting Howard Lutnick. They're protecting Brett Ratner. There was no reason to remove this picture from the files. There are no girls in this picture, but they removed it. You will also see here something else about Howard Lutnick. You know, Howard, who claims so much that he just happened to not be in the towers on 9/11. I just happened to take my kid to school that day. Remember we talked about this? Okay. So peep this, fam. Edie Lutnick, Howard Lutnick's sister, has direct ties to Ghislaine Maxwell. After Epstein was convicted of sex crimes, Ghislaine Maxwell started Tara Maher, and Edie happened to be a founding member and supporter of the organization. So now we see Howard Lutnick's sister also had a connection to them. Check this out.
This is Edie Lutnick, Howard Lutnick's sister. And what do you know? She has direct ties to Ghislaine Maxwell. In 2012, after Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of sex crimes, Ghislaine Maxwell started Terra Mar, a nonprofit organization to help protect the high seas. What do you know? Good old Edie just happened to be a founding member and supporter of the organization. And this is years after Howard said that he had cut all ties with Jeffrey Epstein.
Years later, my friend. So do you see this? Still all in the family.
Edie and Howard are close. They're not some distant relatives. Edie Lutnick is a lawyer. She's also the co-founder and serves as the president of the Cantor Fitzgerald Relief Fund that was established shortly after 9/11 at Howard's request to support the families that passed from 9/11. One of the craziest parts is that just like Howard Lutnick, she just happened to not be in the Twin Towers that day. Howard, his wife, asked him to pick up the kids from school. And in Edie's case, it happened because of a canceled appointment. This is
okay. So let's just stop there for a second. What are the possibilities that Howard Lutnick and his sister just happened to have other things that would keep them out of the towers on that day? We also know that Ghislaine Maxwell from the files was asked to be a part of the 9/11 Shadow Commission. If you've been following me recently, you also know that Ghislaine Maxwell's sister created a company, software company called Chiliad, which was basically championed to challenge what happened with 9/11. Chiliad was connected with the FBI, with intelligence agencies. And so you mean to tell me it just happens to be a coincidence that Howard Lutnick and his sister just happened to not be there on that day? She just happened to have a appointment. He just happened to take his kid to school. Think about that.
One lucky family, and also one that seems to be entrenched in the Epstein Ghislaine Maxwell circle. As always, I want to hear what you think about all of this down below.
So when I told you that all of these people rolled together, and now not all of them, but many of them are trying to say, I just don't recall. I don't remember even meeting Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know anything about that guy at all. These people been around. Now, here's the damning part about Donald Trump that has just been revealed. Follow me for this one. OMG, Epstein in an email to Paul Krasner with the subject line, R.E. Trump, I was pointing out that the alleged assault was reported to be at my house with Donald and I assaulting her. They're going to nuke Iran to bury those files. Check this out. This email is from Jeffrey Epstein. It was sent February 16th, 2017. Says right here to Paul Krasner. Again, if we start at the bottom here at 7:39 a.m., it said the allegation was equal not at a pedophile party. It was at my house with me. To what wording would you suggest I change that? Response here. I was pointing out that the alleged, we're going to say sexual assault is YouTube. The alleged sexual assault was reported to equal E. This is a symbol here. They're using it code for something. Reported my house with Donald and I sexually assaulting her. That email was sent to Paul Krasner. Like, I'm not even, Justice by Karma says, OMG, OFMG, how in the hell can this stuff not be investigated? That's what I'm saying. This is why they are slowly removing things from the files, especially after people start to call it out on social media. That's why I said Donald Trump should be testifying. But he's out there starting wars so that you forget about this. The Epstein class, it gets worse. This is one of the things that has just been revealed. But I want to show you another one. By the way, you can see it here in the files for yourself. This has not been removed. We're going to go to page 5. Check this out. So this is from the justice.gov website for the files. Guys, watch this. This is 2018, December of 2018, during Donald Trump's presidency. Listen to what they reveal here. Trump is pulling troops out of Syria. Is a bad sign. He is up to something and it's not good. I'll make this larger so you guys can. There we go. Some of these are duplicated, as you'll see. We'll continue on. BTW, by the way, I believe that his pulling troops out of Syria is step 1. See what I said? Like, these files also talk about foreign policy, not just trafficking. It goes on to say here, he needs a large diversion. 2018. This part here, they're talking about a quote here from Tagore and Einstein. We can skip that. That's not really relevant to this part of the conversation. But then we get to this part right here. The invisible chair. Total diversion, but the right is on to him. Look at this. I'm starting to sound Indian. Total diversion, but the right is on to him. They're talking about Donald Trump during his first term. We don't know who Epstein is talking to because they redacted these names. Then it goes on to say, everybody here surprised and I'm happy about it. Nobody quite understood why he did it, including myself. Completely opposite to what I was told in the White House. What is he up to? Spoke with new Syria UN envoy, Geir Pedersen, who used to work for me. Russians, very good and kind. Again, why is Jeffrey Epstein focusing on Donald Trump's foreign policy decisions? If they were just business partners or interested in business together, why is he talking about this? It gets crazier. I told you some of these are duplicates because they're resends. You guys need to understand that he is psychotic, talking about Trump, and would not blink twice at encouraging an attack on us. So he can leap to the country's defense mindset. If I go down, I'm taking everyone with. We need to know who this is speaking right here. They're saying that if they were to go down, they're taking everyone with them. And we don't know who said that. See, this is one of the ways that Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed people. I'm still shocked a lot of these people actually said this shit over email, to be honest. Goes on here. That's a duplicate there. Cornering a rat, never a good idea. Syria shows that I'm no fan of our involvement, but you can't do what he did and how he did it. You see how they're talking about him behind his back? Okay. Could be he doesn't want them there if a much bigger operation might put them in jeopardy. Reminder, he will take everyone down with him if he feels the end is near. I always urge people not to corner a rat. They become extremely dangerous and unpredictable. So now they're saying that Trump would take everyone down with him. Okay. Moving on here. The right punching out. One explanation is that he doesn't want them in harm's way if he starts a larger regional issue. You hear this? Larger regional issue. Take your family out of the house before you blow it up. It's the right move. China, Pakistan, Russia, Turkey, Iran. He also might have just decided to trade the Kurds to Turkey for them standing down on Saudi. The game is on now. Do you guys get what they're saying here? They are saying that Donald Trump is willing to start a regional conflict to divert the attention from himself. And look at where we are today. That was said in 2018. So some people wonder if it was Steve Bannon who was on these emails. I don't know. They redacted the names, but it says, my God, is he that cornered? So what they were basically saying is that Trump, if he feels cornered, he is willing to start a regional conflict to get the attention off of him. You guys got to think about something for a second. Donald Trump, back in the day, He was buddy and mentored by Roy Cohen, who was basically another, mob associate. When Donald Trump's businesses got into financial trouble, and it did, and he had to, take out loans and to get things back up and going and stuff like that, where did he get that money from? And the people who gave him the money, what did he owe them in return? This is why I say follow the money. It's not even just about if Donald Trump participated in trafficking or sexually abused people. That's one piece, but another piece is, who did Donald Trump owe money to? Who did he borrow money from? And who did he owe money to? And what did he have to do for them in return? I really think that's how people need to be looking at this. A lot of people are focusing on, I don't think that Donald Trump would abuse young girls. I don't think you're looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture here is following the money. Like I said, the Epstein situation is a global criminal enterprise. And they were blackmailing people that they had shit on. Makes you wonder, like I said, they probably blackmailed him too. And it brings me to this point, I don't know. Someone made this. I thought it was pretty relevant. Would you really prefer all of this to come out? There's a picture there of Benjamin Netanyahu, Epstein +8 file, Disconfidential video 2002. And then there's Donald Trump right there sweating, validation pending. Right? Now, Ro Khanna was just questioned about this, why Donald Trump is not testifying. Listen to this.
We have the votes to subpoena Lutnick. I don't believe we have the votes right now to subpoena President Trump, because the Republicans control the House, and I don't think they would vote with us on that. But when Robert Garcia is chair of the Oversight Committee, we will have those votes. And the Clinton rule means that Donald Trump and his family members should testify. By the way, he should do it voluntarily. I mean, he should look at what President Clinton did. He answered every question. Why can't Donald Trump do the same? There's this question of these 3 FBI interviews. There's someone who made allegations against Donald Trump that she was sexually abused as a minor. I want to be very clear. There's no evidence whether that's true or not, but there were allegations made. One of those witness interviews was released. 3 of them are hidden by the Justice Department. Why are they hidden? When will they be released? These are the types of questions Donald Trump needs to answer.
All right. Yeah. So that was the point there that Ro Khanna made. Donald Trump should have to testify. Melania should have to testify. Like I said, she was Jeffrey Epstein's girlfriend before she was Donald Trump's girlfriend. You mean to tell me Melania don't know anything? Nobody knows anything, but all of these activities took place. Elites run the world. They do what they want to do. And I find it very interesting that the moment this information was dropped, all of a sudden Donald Trump was like, okay, that's it. They were gonna strike Iran anyway. I guess the DOJ forgot to take that one out. So don't forget about the Epstein files. It has gotten to the point now where people are so pissed. Even Nick Fuentes is telling people not to vote for the Republican Party. He's telling them to vote Democrat. I'm not kidding you. It's not a joke. Listen to this.
Something has gone horribly wrong. All of those people, with some exceptions, were never Trumpers in 2016. Shapiro didn't vote for Trump in 2016. Mark Levin was critical of Trump in 2016. Where were these people when the movement was actually born, when those pillars were in place? Now all of those people are in the center. The movement is something else now. And what we need in 2028, this is our last chance. We need in 2026 for this administration to be shut the fuck down. What does this administration do other than cover up the Epstein files, embezzle money through government contracts, and bring us to war for Israel? This administration needs to be shut down immediately. Do not vote in the midterms. And if you do, vote for Democrats. Fuck this. That is what the Republicans deliver. That is what our golden age looks like. The tariffs were refunded. The deportations were stopped. They wound down and withdrew the ICE from Minneapolis. What does this administration do other than embezzle money, go to war with Iran, and bury the Epstein files? Oh, and blackmail Harvard so they police anti-Semitism and ban people who criticize Israel from being in America. This administration needs to be shut down immediately. It has forfeited its mandate. They promise no new wars. They promise mass deportations in America first, and we're not getting any of it. So shut it down. In 2026, shut it down. And our only hope is that in 2028, in the Republican primary, somebody will emerge who will actually put America first. I am not voting for the vice president and the secretary of state that brought us to war in Iran. I won't do it. 2026, shut it down. You got to burn the house down with them inside, metaphorically. And in 28, you better hope that somebody has a prayer to run the Trump strategy and do another hostile takeover over the GOP. Otherwise, I'm going to become a Democrat.
So Nick Fuentes has a large audience. Now, I know what Nick Fuentes is doing. I told you he's just a contrarian. He jumps on an issue that he knows is going to be. He takes the contrarian position because it's like the shock jock thing. I've explained this to you guys before. Like Howard Stern used to do this like back in the day before he got his panties in a bunch later on. But the point is, Nick Fuentes does have a large audience and a lot of viewers, and he is telling them to vote Democrat this year. Now, he could change his mind a month from now and say something different, but the point is, he is reaching people to change their mind. And he flippity flip flops all over the place. This is why some people call him a Fed. But the point is, there are a lot of people that watch him that listen to him and do what he tells them to do. So the Trump administration, and not even just the Trump administration, but the elites altogether, the Epstein class of people are the ones that are running shit. And so what Nick Fuentes should be telling people is what I just told you. The Epstein class is running shit. They run the politicians. They run the banks, the universities, all of it. And some people that will look at this from a biblical perspective, they will see those people and they will say that they are demonic, that those people are evil. However you want to look at it, the reality is they have the money and the resources to do whatever they want to do. And apparently, according to the Epstein files, to also get away with murder. This puts the Republican Party and the Democratic Party in a precarious position because for the first time that I've seen in my life, both of them are, kind of complicit here. And not only that, but they're exposed. Because you see Democrats not wanting to touch this, and you see Republicans not wanting to touch it. People are asking, well, what about the women and the children? None of them cared about women and children to begin with. That was just a line they used to you so that you would agree with them going to destroy these countries and have all these wars. You can't care about the women and the children. You don't even want people to have health care. You don't care about the women and the children. Care about your bottom line and your political career. These are the same people that are bombing hospitals right now in Iran, the same people that bombed hospitals in Gaza, same people that killed children abroad and women. And people are shocked that they just don't seem to be interested or care that all these crimes and activities that are listed in the Epstein files, they just don't really want to try to do anything. They want to protect their party, their team. Both of these parties funded a genocide. They don't give a damn. Never forget that. So when people say, you know, what do we do about these things? I always say you have to fight back with dual power. So just a reminder, this Saturday is my next mutual aid workshop, March 7th, 11 a.m. Eastern time. I hope to see you guys there. I will send the Zoom link for you to join. It's virtual. It's free. I'll send it via my Substack newsletter. If you're not signed up for my newsletter, the link for that is in the description of all my videos. It's free. You don't have to pay. Just FYI, I don't know why Substack does that. When you try to sign up, it tells people like, no, you don't have to pay. Just select free. I'll send it out tomorrow, and then I'll send a reminder the day before, because we have to build like dual power. These people are not looking out for us, and they don't intend to. They don't intend to, unless people take it to the streets. And I don't promote violence, because reality is people take it to the streets, a lot of people are going to die, and we don't want that. So let's keep it moving and grooving. Ladies and gents, that is all for me this Sunday evening. I'll be live again Tuesday evening. Eric is going to come in and close out the show. I think Eric also has a Substack article he's probably going to chime in for. And he will also finish reading the super chats that are here as well.
Sure. So we all ready to be Nick Fuentes Democrats? Oh, boy. But, I mean, the Uniparty loves that take, right? You just flip from one to the other. Oh, we're going to teach the other party a lesson by staying in the Uniparty. It's a good
Still
trick.
not getting down to the core issue, which is the money.
Yeah,
you know,
they ain't talking about the big money and the billionaires, then they ain't talking right. I wanted to make sure you saw this one super chat, generous one from
thank
Liz,
you,
who says, I
Liz.
like your Black Erasure documentary. Let's hope this conflict won't start World War III.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I hope so too. I hope it doesn't. Oh boy.
I mean, you know, I think things will calm down for a while. You know, it always lurches up and down and back and forth. I don't know. Do you have a prediction?
I mean, with Trump, it's just like he's just, it's so unpredictable. It seems like sometimes.
It'll calm down.
So
It'll calm down until the next big Epstein files dump.
Well, I mean, he apparently tried to contact them to have ceasefire talks or whatever, but Iran said, fuck that. I mean, honestly, can you blame them? They killed all those kids at the school. It's crazy, man. Crazy.
What a world, but we'll persevere on. All right.
All right, guys. That is it for me tonight. Eric will close out the show and he'll finish reading the super chats. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.
All right. We're going to let Sabrina go on her way. And yeah, you can catch Sabby next on Tuesday. It does 7 p.m. for the next live show. And I did, as she mentioned, I just wanted to do a quick readout of the latest Substack post from 11demands.org. And you can see that if you go to 11demands.org is the main site for everything 11 Demands. And if you scroll down on there a little bit, you get to the part about Substack. And in this little subsection, there are several of the posts, kind of the core posts highlighted. But if you want to get to the newest post, you go into the Substack itself. You can click through past that screen. And if you scroll down a little bit, no scrolling, here we go. So this latest Substack post from 11 Demands is called Demand Peace. And there's a little picture of Trump and Biden shaking hands just because, you know, they all really get along. We need to be clear about one thing. These wars are not happening just because of Trump. Militaristic imperialism and mayhem have been the norm under every modern president. It's what they do. These wars are happening at the core because they make money. Directly via weapon sales and indirectly in the service of acquiring more wealth and resources for those mega corporations, which of course are owned and only controlled by that top 0.1%, that billionaire class, that Epstein class. The current conflicts are not happening just because of Israel. Yes, the Zionist lobby exerts enormous influence, but they're players in a larger game. Israel is a pet project of the billionaires, and they are the source. The billionaires are the source of that influence. Calling out the root causes is crucial. The billionaire class has much too much wealth, and they use that wealth to corrupt our government and our politics to make them operate in their interests and not our interests, the 99%. We need to demand peace. But when we're doing that, we also need to connect the dots and demand an end to the root causes of war, which are big money corruption in our government and our politics. Yes, Donald Trump should be impeached and removed from office immediately. But replacing Trump with another uniparty player in the game will not solve the core problem. Only a mass movement based on clear demands will turn back this tide. So C11demands.org for more on that. And let's all be clear about what we're demanding. Not just an end to the wars, but an end to the corruption that makes them happen. And so, as noted in here, there's the 11 Demands website. And one of the key demands, if we go, you can click through pretty easily and go through into the list. And of course, one of the key demands is end the wars. And this gets into, those root causes and those clear and direct things that we can do, that we have to demand that our government does to end the wars. So that's things like end support of all governments that engage in settler colonialism and genocide, and that of course includes, Israel, because is, a leading candidate of that. Cut military budget by at least 20% every year. And you can kind of put whatever number you want on there. It's just the key is significant cuts to those military budgets. To span NATO and reform imperialist foreign policies. And the sales of military weapons by U.S. companies. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know if people even appreciate like how much of a revolutionary change doing something like that would be, like those military sales and what that those defense contractors, that MIC, military industrial complex. I mean, the billions, the hundreds of billions that flow through those channels is really, it's hard to even wrap your head around. And of course, that kind of money running around is going to corrupt the government and bend the government to the will of those companies, those billionaires that own those companies, and keep that, I'll call it a grift, but keep that business going. And then sometimes, like this next one, replace military jobs with federal green jobs, because sometimes people will say, well, we need those military contracts for jobs. Well, if you have a real green or any kind of federal jobs programs, then you do what they call a just transition, and you replace those with peaceful jobs, that aren't tied to military slaughter. This next one, repeal the USA Patriot Act, the Espionage Act of 1917, the AUMF of 2001, similar laws. And these laws, it kind of connects also into what Colonel Wilkerson was saying about what Trump and other presidents do when it comes to war is just wildly and directly unconstitutional. But we've had these laws, like that authorization to use military force, AUMF, and other laws, these War Powers Act, these all give cover to presidents to use the military just on a whim, to make war. And we need to repeal these laws. We need to impeach any president that goes anywhere near any of this stuff. So that they can't it becomes clear to our leadership that they can't just wage war on a whim. And these are what the 99% need to get in the streets peacefully, but in the streets, demanding. This is the kind of thing we need, a movement to be demanding. And then the last one, in this section, prohibit intelligence agencies from collecting propaganda and surveillance against American people. That gets into these mechanisms of how all of this war and narrative management, which also backs all of this, happens. And then I always, want to circle back to the number one, fix the big money in politics and government, because all of these, the 2 through 11 demands lay out the things that we need to do, to demand to make a better world. The number one demand gets into the logistics of how you actually do this. And, it's about campaign finance, it's about regulation, it's about fixing the Constitution with that constitutional move to amend style amendment that says corporations are not people, money's not speech, campaign spending, all these things. And part of the rationale behind 11 demands is to say, these things are doable. There is a roadmap to doing this, but it's going to take a movement that's really backed by clear demands. It starts with all of us really getting educated on this and educating our friends, our neighbors, people online about these kind of demands and the corruption and the money and how we fix it. All right, so that's 11 demands for today. And as usual, you can catch it there, more in there in the 11 demands. There's also an 11 demands collective, and the idea behind is a thought collective. And if you strongly agree with what is in there, what I've been saying, you can join the 11 demands collective. And it's just about, like I was saying, educating people about this and being an advocate for these clear demands, these clear ideas. Now, super chats. We do have a few super chats queued up, so let's do that. Get those read out. Yeah. Thanks. Oh, yeah. Okay. We just read this one. Sorry, I'm just playing with my camera so that I'm a little bit above the chats. There we go. Wait, come on, camera, move. It's being sticky. Of course, now I did it too much. But there we go. All right. Thanks for that one. And next is super chat, Kevin Wayne, who says, thanks for having Larry Wilkerson on today. Yeah, he was good and very knowledgeable. Thanks for the super chat. Roger Meadows says, transition off oil to hemp, algae, borofine, thorium, lab-grown diamonds, all these things we have right here in the U.S. No need for the theft of resources. All right. Thanks for this one, Roger. He says, robust domestic policy autocorrects foreign policy. Yeah, but I would just say we got to think bigger for those policies to change. We need a non-corrupted, decorrupted government. If we can decorrupt and fix our government in that way, all kinds of things are possible. If we don't decorrupt the government, then we end up with more of this mess. Kenman saying cable guy about the Jim Carrey. All right. And thanks for this one, Louis James. He says, I wonder if any of Al Khamenei's sons will try and take power. Yeah, we'll see. Although the Iranian power structure, I think, seems to be more clerical based. So I think it would be more of one of the other leading clerics. But I honestly don't know that much about it, but we'll see. I guess the main point is, it's up to them. It's certainly not up to us to decide who runs their country. Thanks for the super chat to Tuxedo Mask, who says he got the MK Ultra procedure, talking about Carrey. Also, this one from Kenman, thanks, saying you got a prefrontal lobotomy. We got some theories here in the super chat. Thanks for this one, Bees Bond, who says Caitlyn Jenner is making her money off Jim. All right. And shout out to Courtney Smith, who says Jim's insignificant funds got to him. That's what happened. All right. We got Kevin Wayne. Thanks for this one, saying Jim Carrey is a master of voices and personas. And thanks for this super chat from a simple guy T, who says, I am Iranian. Only sellout Iranians in the West are happy, not the people of Iran. We don't want to be told what to do or be controlled like a puppet. Sounds good. And thanks for this one, Davida. He says, I remember just last year with a black woman from Alabama had faked her disappearance and showed back up and was charged. How is she, this one, getting away with it? Yeah, it's an interesting idea if there were any laws broken in that. Certainly a hell of a thing to do to your kids, to just disappear on them. And thanks for this super chat from Fuzzy Balls. Rand Paul and his father have been made fun of for being anti-war by both parties for 3 decades. Yeah, I hear you, but also, Rand and Ron Paul have, especially Rand, has always been members of the Republican Party, as far as I know, have never done a real split from it. It's, I think, a key thing that we can be, to use that word again, demanding, but that we can be looking for in these politicians. Are they exiting these deeply corrupt, warmongering corporate uniparties of either flavor? Because if they're not doing that, then I don't think we can trust them. If all of these supposed dissidents of these parties really felt that way, they could exit and form a new coalition. In the Substack, the 11 Demands Substack before the current one, mentions that they could form a coalition. It wouldn't even take that many of them. They could have a lot of power. Every member of Congress has a lot of power. They don't like to act like it sometimes, but they do. And even a small coalition could wield a lot of power, because a lot of these votes are tight. A coalition that was anti-war, that was really representing people, would be really popular. So, and I mean, the other thing that occurred to me is that if Ro Khanna or Thomas Massie, if they really feel that their party could be reformed and moved away from the corruption, either one of them could, for starters, call out their party leadership. So that would mean Ro Khanna calling out firmly and strongly, saying that the party leadership, as in Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, should resign and they should be out of there. And he could run himself for party leader and say, this is going to be the new Democratic Party and these are going to be its principles. Similarly, Thomas Massie could do the same thing. He could say, old Mike Johnson there has to go, and Thomas Massie could run for party leader. They're not doing that, so let me know when they start doing that, at a minimum. But even better, leave those parties and form a coalition. Thanks for the super chat from Lisa, who says, great show and wow. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. And shout out to Gamble510, who says, APAC money moves like Marvel's Hydra, don't it? Yeah, and that was an important story too, about how sneaky they are, how many channels they got for moving APAC money, and even more largely billionaire money. You have to be careful to not get tunnel vision looking just at Israel or APAC. It's a big corrupt system, right? It's that big club, and the billionaires have lots of ways to move their money through. And you really have to just be clear about just getting the big money out in all levels and in all its mechanisms. It's not an easy task, but it's the task we need to keep on. We need to take on to really fix this mess, put it that way. Shout out to Robbie Cochran for becoming a new YouTube member. Welcome aboard there, Robbie. And thanks for this one, Cool Blue 71, who says, one reason among many not to donate and vote for Democrats. Their party leaders in Congress are Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Yep, and we always want to be sure to then also be saying that about the Republicans, in that the and that the Republicans operate in the same way. It's a uniparty. Thanks for this super chat from Resurrect, who asks, does Ayanna Pressley take money from AIPAC? And, I'm sure her and her supporters will say, no, of course not. Just look at the records. They don't. But, as these earlier stories and what we've been saying show, there are lots of channels and ways for that money to go through. And, frankly, simply being a member of either branch of the uniparty makes you complicit in the whole game. Thanks much for the super sticker, Michael. And thanks also for this super chat, Michael, who says, Sabby Michael Kablan, U.S. candidate, Minnesota. All right. I was looking, Michael, I don't see a website for you for your candidacy. So if you do get a website up, do let us know, because I think that would be a first step. And thanks for the super chat from Regini. Appreciate that. And a Trash Panda, who's been a member for 6 months, says general strike. And I would agree, but general strike is a tool, and strikes need demands, and so it's certainly a tool in the toolkit, but it's got to be backed by clear demands. And Roger says, "Thanks for the super chat, Roger." And he says that's what I'm saying. Start uncorrupted at state level. All right. And thanks for this super chat from Focus. He says, Thomas Massey did call out the party leadership. He also fought the vote for Johnson. Is he saying Mike Johnson should be impeached, should be removed, should resign? I don't hear him going that far, Thomas Massey or Ro Khanna. And again, I'm talking about going hard at that, right? Calling for new leadership, but actually calling the leadership corrupt. I would pay money. I would bet that neither Ro Khanna or Thomas Massey has actually called their party leadership corrupt, and that they need to be replaced now. And that they should be removed from those positions. Just doing that would be like the absolute minimum. And much more better and effective would be again leaving those parties and forming a new coalition. We're still waiting to see it. All right, we got one more kicking around here in the rumbles. Let me get that up here. All right, thanks for this rumble rant from Francat, who says, "Thanks for being a sane voice, Sabby. Appreciate that as always." All right, that's gonna about do it for us here tonight. Appreciate you all tuning in and listening, for your super chats and your comments. Like we said, you can catch the show again on should be this coming Tuesday. Our Tuesday start time is 7 p.m. Eastern, and we'll see what we have for you then. We'll see the state of the wars. See whether it's calmed down a bit or it's gotten worse. I think it'll probably have a lull now, and then we'll see what perks up again. But I could be wrong. Tune in next Tuesday, and you'll see if I was right or wrong or what's happening. But until then, like we say, keep up that fight, and we'll have a good night. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.